So my Black Widow exhaust has just arrived. So I've got full exhaust system. It's the exhaust headers, link pipe, a few link pipes, and the actual exhaust itself. Comes with some paste, some of the Holt's exhaust assembly paste. And there we go, this is the exhaust out of its packaging. It's a 40 centimeter one. This is the longest exhaust that they make, 40 centimeters. I think you can get them down as 20 centimeters, 30 centimeters, and 40 centimeters. So I've gone for the longest one that they make, and that's just to make sure it's not too loud. It does come with a baffle installed, but even with the baffle, these aftermarket exhausts, really from any of the manufacturers, can be very loud. So the longer the exhaust is, in theory, there should be more sound absorption. So it should be a little bit quieter. So it should have a nice sound, but it should be a little bit quieter. Hello everyone. In this video I'm going to show you how to replace the full exhaust system on a motorcycle, and I'm going to give you some tips and tricks that you can employ while or if you are replacing the exhaust system on your own motorcycle. So I've actually gone with a Black Widow full exhaust system from a Honda VFR 750. I wanted to spice things up in the sound department first of all, and the pipes from the engine to the muffler, the stock pipes, the original pipes, they're quite rusted out. There's no holes in the pipes. It's probably not a big problem, but it looks really naff when you have a rusted out pipes. So this is the collector pipes. Okay, so this should connect into the rear cylinders, and this section here of the collector box should connect into these two front pipes. So these are the two front pipes. They're going to go on here. They should slot on. It's probably a case of it slots on like so, something like this, and like so. Okay, and that's going to connect up to the front cylinders of the engine. And then the other thing that they supplies in this little box is exhaust gaskets. So these are actually quite important, and I'm actually quite impressed that they actually supply them, because I've heard of a lot of the exhaust manufacturers, they don't supply gaskets of any kind. So this gasket here fits in between the muffler and the pipes, and then we have little gaskets here, and these gaskets fit in at they connect onto the front and the rear. So there's four of them actually. There's four gaskets, exhaust gaskets. So you slot on to the four, where the four pipes slot into the cylinders. You will put on a little gasket. And then the other piece that should come with your exhaust system in the muffler is this little piece here. It's called the baffle. Okay, so it might slide in here sometimes, but most of the time it slots in here. And you can see there's a little bolt here that I can actually screw out. I can actually remove the baffle. So if you find you want your exhaust to be even louder, you can remove that little baffle, and you can you'll have a louder exhaust. When you replace or consider replacing the full exhaust system on your motorcycle, you need to consider what effect that's going to have on the performance of the bike. Now, I think a lot of people think that removing the OEM muffler and replacing it with an aftermarket muffler is going to improve the performance. That is not necessarily the case. If you remove the muffler, if you change the pipe system, you run the risk of changing the characteristics of the flow of exhaust gases from the engine of the motorcycle, and that can have a knock-on effect on the performance of the engine itself. And then the other thing you need to bear in mind is if, for example, you buy a fuel, if you're replacing the full exhaust system on a fuel injected motorcycle, then the fuel injected motorcycle, the pipes from the exhaust will generally have a oxygen sensor built into them. So it's a little sensor that screws into, there'll be a little hole somewhere in the pipes that it screws in. So you will have to remove that oxygen sensor and you will have to reinstall it in the new pipes, and you'll need to do that correctly. So I've never actually done that. I don't have to do it on this particular exhaust system because it's a carbureted exhaust system or a carbureted motorcycle, and as a result there's no sensors on any of the pipes. But if you're working on a fuel injected, that's just an extra bit of complication, and there can be problems with removing and reinstalling. So, you know, that's something to bear in mind. First thing you should really have is some of this stuff. It's WD-40. Now this is a specialist. This is the from their specialist range. It's the fast release penetrant. So I will actually use this on the studs that hold on the nuts that screw into the bolts that secure on the collar, which secures on the pipes to the cylinder of the engine. So when you go to remove those studs, use very minimal force. Try not to force them too much. If you feel that they are really stuck on with rust or corrosion, then you might want to consider using this. The other thing I'm going to advise you is get something like this, the official service manual, or in my case I'm using the Haynes manual for my Honda VFR. It will have a chapter on the exhaust system, and it will give details and the steps you need to do to remove the exhaust system. So it might not just be a case of removing the exhaust system, you might have to remove, as in my case, apparently the manual says that I have to remove the center stand. So that's something to bear in mind. I looked at it previously and I thought I maybe didn't have to remove the center stand. It's given a few extra steps in the actual Haynes manual that I wasn't aware of. And then the other thing is, when you go to remove the exhaust system, you take off the nuts that secure the pipes to the engine. You might think that you just remove the exhaust system. The pipes might actually be really difficult to remove from the engine and from the motorcycle. Not just because, not necessarily because they're stuck into the actual, where you connect onto the engine, but at this point here, so these pipes here, what I'll have to do is I'll have to remove all the nuts that are securing these pipes and collector box to the engine, and I have to then remove this pipe here. So on the OEM one that's already on the bike, I'll have to remove this like so. That's the way it'll come off, and then it'll be the same here on this one. This has to come off. Now that looks quite easy on this aftermarket system. or pipes, but on the OEM pipes I can almost guarantee you that this section here, that this pipe is almost rusted solid, and it's almost going to be welded onto this. So to remove that is going to be quite difficult, and that can be one of the challenges of removing the pipes from the exhaust or from the motorbike. So the first thing I've done is just locate the bolts or the nuts that secure the pipes, the front pipes, to the engine. So I have sprayed them with some muck off motorcycle cleaner, let it soak in, and then I've just rinsed it with just some water from a little spray can, just to rinse it off, so I have a nice clean exhaust and studs. I'm just going to spray some of this WD-40 Specialist fast release penetrant, because these studs can be quite corroded and the nuts will not come off easily. So you do not want to break these studs because they screw into the engine, and if they break, it's a big job to remove them. You're probably not going to have either the tools or the skill to do it yourself. You might have to bring it to mechanics. So spray them with this WD-40. This is to make sure that they're nice and lubricated. Okay, at a few different points. These have an interior here. Okay, it'll also clean them out as well. So come back and I'll spray them again in another couple of minutes. I want them nice and lubricated. So that WD-40 penetrant will penetrate through the stud. It's quite good, and it'll just make them a lot easier. If they are stuck on with corrosion, this is going to reduce the risk of problems or the stud breaking. So they should come off nice and easy, hopefully. Okay, and then we have, this is where the front pipe connects on to the collector box. So there's a stud here. I've already done it on the left hand side. I've already done this one. So I am just giving this one a dart. Spray it in anywhere that it could possibly go. Okay, so that's the stud. That will penetrate down through the stud, and it'll just make it a lot easier. You might need to reuse these clips, so you don't want to break these. So I also spray in here, and that'll just make it a little bit easier to remove. So this front pipe will have to be pulled forward to remove it. Okay, so to remove the muffler, I need to loosen up this nut here and remove that bolt. First of all, I need to loosen the two bolts that are securing on this clamp here, and I have already cleaned it off with motorcycle cleaner, then rinse that off. So it's a little bit wet, but I'm just going to use some of the WD-40 just to, these bolts might be corroded, so I'm just going to spray a little bit of that. And then on the bolts here, okay, and then the bolts here. I will also need to remove this footrest. So it's held on with, I think, how many bolts? I think there's one bolt here, two bolts, and I need to remove out this little plastic panel so that I can get at the actual rear pipes to loosen out the bolts there. clamp off. Just going to pull this and remove this bolt. That's the nut. I'll just remove this bolt. Okay. So my exhaust comes away. There's the muffler. Freed up. Next, I want to remove these two bolts that are holding on the footrest. So already loosened them. Okay, so with the footrest pulled back out of the way, I can see my rear pipes here. And now I can see the 3 bolts. So there's one of them. There's 3 bolts holding on the rear pipes. So those 3 nuts, I have sprayed them with fast release penetrant oil, so they should be easy enough to get off. And that's the pipes here. So that's basically, they lead into the collector box. Down here, there's my this is the clamp here that secures the collector box to the front pipes, which I have oiled up already with fast release penetrant. Okay, now as you can see, here is the center stand, and the collector box feeds up here, up to here, and this is where the muffler feeds on. So that actually goes through the center stand, the center of the center stand, and then that is all one unit here. It's all connected up into the collector box and the rear pipes that are connected into the cylinder. So I'm hoping that this will come off easy enough without having to remove the center stand per the Haynes manual. Okay, so some of these bolts or nuts are hard to reach with just a straight end ratchet, so I have some of my angled ends on it. Okay, so they should make it a little bit easier. Number 1. Should be a little more straightforward. There's 2. Okay, so next I remove the nuts and bolts that are holding on the front pipes. So I have loosened them already. So it's just a bolt on one side and a nut on the other. Again, none of these should be very tight. If they are, apply heat and lubricant or penetrant. Okay, another bolt. Finally, a nut. Okay, so to remove these clamps that are holding on the connecting the front pipes to the collector box, I'm going to use a 12mm to open it up. Is it open? Yes. Okay, so this is quite stiff, which I don't like. Some more penetrant oil. Not too much pressure. It's actually very tight. Might just go back, tighten it again. Feels really tight. That's going to snap that fastener or that bolt. So I don't want to do too much to it. So I'll go around the other side. Try that one. Okay, loser. What you want. Okay, that's that loose. A lot of rust there. So let's go back and look at this one again. So this is what I warned about. You don't want to break bolts like this, because otherwise you have to go and get a replacement. So back and forth with minimal effort. Don't force it or it will snap. This bolt is probably very weak and I don't want to have it stuck in a clamp, because then I have to go try and source a new clamp. So back and forth, and each time it will get a little bit looser. So I'll put it back up. More penetrant oil. And back and forth. Okay. I'll get a bit of tissue and just wipe it off. Could be a little bit of grit. It can cause a huge amount of rust. It just causes resistance. So I'm just clearing it off. Let's just tighten it back up again and wipe it down, because I want to keep this. Okay. Make sure there's no piece of paper there. Loose. Back and forth again. More oil. Okay, resistance again. it's going to come loose and it's not going to snap. And eventually, oh my god, what a disaster. Nightmare. Here we go. That's just because of rust and dirt. Right. So, there we go. There's the knife removed. Okay. So these front pipes are quite corroded here, so I need to try and free them off. Can be hard to do. Let's put that in the color. So I'll get in a screwdriver in there. Okay, so there we go. There we go. That's the first front pipe out. Second one, a bit easier. Okay. There's our second front pipe. Okay. Now we can just go back to rear pipes. Hopefully. Okay, so let's try and put in the new collector box pipes. Should go up here. This will all come apart. I am just going to kind of do a mock build-up of the installed pipes. I still have to put my exhaust gaskets on, so this will all kind of have to come apart, but I just want to make sure it all fits together properly. So let's try the front pipes. See that this does actually fit in pretty well. Okay, maybe it is meant to cross over. And this goes in, crosses over to the right hand side, possibly. Gaskets, which are coming from Black Shadow or from Black Widow. It's actually old gaskets which I'm taking out. So there's the old gasket. I'll have to get a screwdriver. There's the second old one. So install my new ones. There it goes. Okay. Second one. There's two outlets for each cylinder. Oh, nice and snug fit. So I'm ready to reinstall the collector pipes to the output pipe or the rear pipe. So I'm just going to use a little bit of copperies. I'm just going to put it onto the threads of the bolts, and that's just going to stop them rusting out, season up. And the next time I go to do this, hopefully I never do, but if I did, it's nice to know that they're not going to be seized up. So a little bit of copperies. Seems to be lined up. So I'll just start putting my wheels back in. I want to test now that the center stand actually comes back properly. So let's take it off the center stand and see how it goes. Slowly. So I've slackened off the bolts up here, securing the collector box, just so I can fit the front pipes. So I'll put my paste on. You can put on too much if you want. And the excess we'll take off at the end anyway. Okay, and that should provide an airtight seal. Okay. Put on my nut. I've already put some copperies onto. Actually, don't cross thread the nut or the bolts when you're putting them on. Don't want to get them too tight initially because we want to get this all lined up. There's my copperies. Start it seasoning up and rusting. Again, just be careful I don't. I'm installing that nut and bolt by hand initially, just to make sure I don't cross thread. And the exhaust gasket should get crushed. You should get a good airtight seal. Tissue. The exhaust paste. It's messy stuff. Try not to get it everywhere. Pretty messy. Do it right this time. Just wrap it around. Turn it a few times. Should get up the most of it. Wipe off any excess as even as you can. Bit of copperies on my bolt stud. Make sure that nut goes on nice and easy. Pipe as best I can. Give my shoes off. Okay, so there's a little metal tab down here which the footrest, or the center stand, sorry, it should rest on this when it comes up, so it should stop here, and it's to stop coming up too far. So it should hit there, which it is. It's hitting it right bang in it. So I think I have it positioned correctly. The center stand is not touching off the pipe. The pipes are quite close to the oil drain bolt, but there's not much I can do about that. It's just the way it's been manufactured. I can so there's my front pipe connected into the engine, so I'm not sure if that's gas proof or gas if it's going to provide an air seal, but let's see tomorrow when I start it up. So I've got a light here, so this one is lined up as well, but it really is a tight fit. It's not 100%, it's about 99% accurate, the manufacture of the pipes, and as a result it was just quite hard to get these lined up perfectly. Okay, so I've reinserted the footrest, and now I need to install the muffler. So I have my little gasket which fits on here. Provide an airtight seal. So I need to really bury this into it. Make sure this fits right. So I need to put on my little bracket. It's only barely tight. There we go. Then we have our muffler. Let's put that piece on.